When I picked up this table, I knew I wanted to do something fun with it. It has a badly damaged leather top. It has really tarnished hardware and some minor fixes that need to be done. The first thing I do is grab White Lightning by Dixie Belle and clean the entire thing. Look how filthy it was. Then I take off that hardware and clean the rest of it. That was only the top. Once I get it all clean, I'm going to clean that hardware by dropping it into some vinegar and letting it sit overnight. Once it comes out of the vinegar, just use fine steel wool and take off all that tarnish, and they came out beautiful. I'm going to prime the entire thing with Bonding Boss. It is an adhesion primer and a stain blocker. That way any of that stain coming through or tannins from the wood can be blocked by this primer and won't affect any color paint, because I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to be doing with this piece at this point. I'm going to give it 2 even coats a couple hours apart and then let it sit overnight before I paint. I grabbed this beautiful color from the Cottage collection called Weeping Willow. It's a very soft green with a little bit of a gray undertone. It's a really pretty soft color, and I want this table to look a little vintagey, so it goes along with that theme perfectly. Again, I'm going to give it 2 coats with a couple hours in between, and then let it sit before I do its final accents and clear coat. After I get those 2 coats on, I went through my transfers and found a transfer I've never used before. I couldn't figure out how to exactly cut the transfer just to where that leather top would be, because there is a ridge, so I wanted to keep in that ridge. So I grabbed a plastic bag and mapped it out on the plastic bag, and then I will trace that onto the transfer pieces to make sure that I cut them to fit in onto this table. I grabbed this transfer by Dixie Belle called Floral Romance, and I put that plastic down and traced it out. So this is going to be the shape of my table. All I need to do is cut it out to lay it down perfectly. This made it so much easier than laying it down and trying to keep it off of those edges that I didn't want it on. It's a beautiful transfer with a transparent background around those flowers, meaning that the transfer is only what you see in the flowers. So you see your original color underneath. I get that laid down really nice, and then I'm going to paint that outside edge in a dark, deep green called collard greens. Once I get it on solid, I'm actually going to distress it with a sanding block to make it old and worn. I'm also lightly distressing the transfer to make it look like it's very vintage before I put on its clear coat. If you want to distress a transfer, you just take a sanding block you've used before and just sand it a little bit to distress it. I'm going to show you the difference in a second, and it doesn't show up as much in camera as it does in real life. You could see the flower on the left versus the flower on the right, and the difference between the two with a little bit of distressing. I also distressed that edge, and now we're going to add some gold accent to that edge to finish off our distressed, elegant look. I'm just taking a small amount of gold gilding wax and rubbing it along that edge just to give me that look that I was looking for without doing it perfectly solid. Just a reminder, this is what the table looked like before. Just a little bit plain and dull, and I gave it a nice, beautiful, elegant, vintage look. I love the floral on top, I love the color, I love the dark edging and the gold. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again soon.